The phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. 3:12 a.m. My wife never received calls that late. Not from anyone who mattered. I watched the screen light up from across the room, while pretending to rinse grease from my hands in the sink. The smell of iron and oil still clung to my clothes from the rail yard. A railroad worker's scent. Harmless. Forgettable. The name on the screen wasn't saved. Just a number. She snatched the phone before the second vibration. Too fast. Too careful. "Wrong number," she said quickly. I hadn't asked. She forced a smile. The kind that stretches across the lips but never reaches the eyes. Outside, a freight train howled through the darkness. Metal screaming against metal, a sound I'd heard for 20 years. But tonight it felt different. Like a warning. My wife poured herself a glass of water. Her hands were steady. Too steady. Then she walked out onto the back porch to take the call she claimed didn't exist. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. Because an hour earlier, a notification had appeared on a private server I kept far away from this small house, and the life she thought I lived. A motion alert from the cameras inside my father's vintage car garage, and the two figures inside the building had looked very familiar. My wife and the man helping her roll a 1965 Shelby Cobra toward the exit. She thought I was asleep. She thought I was poor. She thought I was powerless. I dried my hands slowly and waited, because the truth was already moving toward her, like a train that couldn't stop. For 20 years I had lived a quiet life. Steel tracks, cold mornings, grease beneath my fingernails. People assumed that was all I was, a railroad worker. Ordinary, predictable, even my wife believed it. That had been intentional. The billions hidden behind offshore accounts, private holdings, quiet investments. None of that belonged in this small house. My father understood that before he died. He had built an empire quietly. Then he left it to me. But he also left something else. His cars. Dozens of them. Machines from another era. Shelby, Ferrari, Jaguar, each one restored with obsessive care. They weren't just vehicles. They were memories. And now they were disappearing, one by one. At first I assumed it was an inside job, an employee, a thief. But the security system told a different story. Every stolen car had left the garage during the same window of time, between 2:30 and 4 a.m., and each time, my wife's phone had been near the property. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, I watched. She started leaving the house late at night, claiming insomnia, claiming long drives to clear her head. And sometimes, she came home smelling like expensive cologne. Not mine. I'm a railroad worker, remember? I smell like diesel and metal. But whoever she was meeting, he smelled like money and crime. It took me 6 days to find his name. Victor Hale, a man who specialized in acquiring rare collectibles for wealthy buyers, who preferred not to ask questions. Classic cars were his specialty. So was manipulation. Phone records confirmed the rest. Dozens of calls, late nights, encrypted messages. My wife wasn't just cheating. She was helping him steal my father's legacy. And she believed she was robbing a man too small to fight back. That was her first mistake. I didn't stop them. Not immediately. Instead, I helped, silently. The next time they entered the garage, I watched from my office monitor miles away. Victor moved confidently. Professional. Gloved hands, careful footsteps. My wife followed him like an eager student. He whispered something that made her laugh. That sound stayed with me longer than I expected. It wasn't the betrayal that hurt. It was the ease. The way she laughed inside my father's garage, inside the place that meant everything to him. They rolled another car toward the door. A 1959 Ferrari 250 GT. Worth millions. Victor loaded it onto a transport truck waiting outside. But he never noticed the small device I had installed beneath the chassis the week before. A tracker. And something else. A signal transmitter tied to a private law enforcement network. I had funded quietly for years. I followed their entire operation. Warehouse locations, buyers, middlemen. Victor believed he was running the perfect scheme, but every move he made became evidence. Meanwhile, I continued my routine. Wake at 5, rail yard by 6, coffee in a dented thermos. My coworkers talked about football, overtime shifts, bills. None of them knew that every night. I was dismantling a criminal empire, piece by piece. And my wife slept beside me, completely unaware that the trap had already closed. 3 weeks later, the final report arrived. Bank transfers, smuggling routes, recorded conversations, Victor's entire network mapped out perfectly. My wife's voice appeared on several recordings. Laughing, planning, even negotiating prices. I printed the documents, all of them. Then I waited. That evening, she walked into the kitchen humming softly, like nothing had changed, like nothing was ending. "Long day at the yard?" she asked. I slid the folder across the table. She frowned. "What's this?" "Just something you should see." She opened it. The color drained from her face before she reached the third page. Her hands began to shake. This isn't—" "Victor Hale," I said quietly. Her eyes snapped toward me. The room went silent. "You tracked him very well," I continued. "Until you didn't." Her lips parted, but no words came out. "For the first time in weeks." She looked afraid. She tried to explain. "Of course she did. People always do. It wasn't supposed to go this far. You stole 14 cars. I thought they were insured." "They were." Her shoulders relaxed slightly. Then I added, "Which is why the Federal Fraud Task Force became interested." The silence that followed was heavy, crushing. Her breathing turned shallow. "You reported this?" "No." I shook my head slowly. "They've been watching for weeks." At that moment, headlights flashed through the front windows. Multiple vehicles. Dark. Unmarked. Her body went rigid. "What did you do?" she whispered. "Nothing dramatic." I stood. Walked toward the door. They came for Victor first. Sirens ignited outside. Flashing lights flooded the living room walls. "Tonight," I said calmly, "they came for the rest." Her knees buckled as the knock struck the door. Hard. Final. Hours later, the house was quiet again. Empty. The officers had taken her away in silence. She looked back only once, like she was trying to find the man she thought she knew, the railroad worker, the harmless husband. But that man had never really existed. I walked through the garage later that night. The remaining cars rested beneath soft lights, untouched, protected. My father built this collection with patience, precision, respect, the same way I had built everything else. Even revenge. People think betrayal destroys you. Sometimes it does. But sometimes, it simply reveals who was weak all along. I turned off the lights and closed the garage door. Because the truth was simple. She thought she married a man with nothing. And that mistake cost her everything